Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode. And this episode is around decentralizing the AI stack. And I have the best stack of people around me. And this is going to be something more of special because all of these projects have been there in the ecosystem for quite some time, have been growing up with some amazing teams and doing some good work. And we have Shashank from Fraction AI, we have Alec from Nexus, and we have Prashant from Spheron. So, Shashank, you have been in Goldman, Alec, you have been in Duke, Prashant, you have an ex Ericsson. What made you come to crypto? Like, why you guys
Not
have come to
not X,
crypto?
not X Ericsson, Siemens,
Oh,
and
ex
multiple others.
Siemens. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, and multiple others. So,
just for
what
just
made
for
you guys join the casino out of that? Like, what was your moment
I
of
think I want to
realization?
I want to like I'll be very honest, okay? And Sashan, this is for you. I was just going through the faction, and I kind of like it. I'm just binge watching those agents playing those casino, and now I'm loving it. The reason being because now at least I'm not playing it. Somebody else is playing it. I'm just watching it. But yeah, I'll come back later. I'll give our guest Alec and Sashan to like chime into like why do you want to guys come into this casino? But yeah,
Nice.
I'll chime in later.
So I did not come from the casino end. I study like environmental science and psychology in school and business, and I wanted to do like climate tech stuff. So really make a positive impact on the world. And my friend was making money on NFTs in 2022, and I was like, what is this? Sort of dove into the technicals and saw it as a great way to combat a lot of the issues in sort of at the time sustainability. This sort of distributed international coordination, right? Solving the tragedy of the commons with game theory. So I came in through that window, and now we're here in the casino, and it's just been crazy and wild, and so quickly changing the last 2 years. But here ideologically, I do think that we're seeing what happens every day. What about you, Shashank?
Yeah, I was doing pretty serious work actually ever since college, 2014, publishing in AI. Then at Goldman, worked as an AI researcher, and kind of got bored at a big firm. You can't move things quick enough. It's a slow process. You feel like you're retired, just sitting around, someone you for doing nothing, and it's like, yeah, too early for that. I joined an early stage startup after that, then a hedge fund. Then crypto just felt a bit natural because it moves so quickly. Even right now, in just last few months, we have seen the narrative going like this, and even the market's going like this. So I just love that energy. Love how people are open to new things. And love the way you can get users and transfer a lot of value back to the users, which is different from anything that has ever been done in Web2. A company creates a product, sells it to users, gets the value, and passes off to their shareholders. In Web3, you get to give some of the value back to your users. It also makes user acquisitions a bit easier. So yeah, just for fun.
Amazing. Yeah, when you guys were just speaking, I was just trying to quietly understand like where you guys stand in terms of the mind structure. So one guy has learned the psychology, and other is like coming from getting bored from AI MNC. Like you can understand what exactly, and then both of you do love one thing, which is the fluctuation, which is not good for human as such. If we fluctuate a lot, then our heartbeats also goes up and down quite heavily. This kind of condition called ADHD, I believe in terms. But that's what I've learned is that like people like who have I think most of the crypto people have this condition where they just love things like it's a problem. I don't know like it's a problem or it's a good part to embrace.
It's a
I don't
blessing.
understand. It's a
I
blessing.
think it's
And
a blessing, man. It means we move quickly, we react quickly, hack one day, new product the next day, new primitive. I don't know. I really do think that this is like a really rapid flywheel of iteration compared to other industries, right? A lot of other industries are really slow moving. Our problem and our challenge is just bridging all these innovations to the real world and making them, present and integrated in daily life. But
yeah,
Yeah,
so I
that's what
always
that's what hits the door.
I always look at it like more of a dome. Like let's say you have you guys seen the movie of where there is an iron dome which is created, and then inside that iron dome, people like there are monsters who are trying to just penetrate that iron dome somehow, or there is a some world which where so there is a movie. I'm
Okay.
very bad at remembering the movie. It's in Marvel. Um, it, it, so she thinks about a world and she creates her own. Um, it's one movie, but it's very good one.
This is like
Uh,
worst dumb charades played on this stream.
There is a movie.
yeah,
That's what I got.
yeah, there's a movie. So I
I think
look
you're
at crypto as
explaining a
like
Scarlet Witch or something.
yeah, somewhere similar. And
So,
then
oh, he got that.
yeah,
Not so bad.
and I look more of Web3 folks like trying to penetrate into the Web2 side and try to acquire them as much as possible, and they're trying to protect them. So I'll come on my side, like the same question which I look at, like why I joined this poker and everything. First thing first, I think like poker is the best game out there in the world. Like it's most addictive. Uh, so that's the it's addiction, which basically once that adrenaline rush is there, you can't just leave it. That's one thing. Second thing, again, it's a joke. Okay, for everyone whosoever is listening to this, don't take it seriously. It's just a joke. But coming back to the right part of it, right? The reason I joined is because honestly speaking, the Web3 has one thing which nobody really talks about, is the permissionless behavior of it and a decentralization behavior of it. What it means, it basically means that anywhere, anyone around the world can contribute to it without even being asked your like anything, like from where you are in the world, doesn't matter. Like we don't record all of those systems. You can always come, contribute, be the part of it. It's quite open, natural to kind of chime in. And the second and the most important part is the community-driven incentive mechanisms which we have. Like I've worked in Web2 companies. I've worked in a couple of very good ones. Some of the unicorns, some of them like got acquired. What I got as an employee is zero thing, like because I was employed there. If I would have worked in any of the Web3 companies, I would have got token from day one or something like that, and an ownership on day one. Or even if I contributed, I would have got some part of the token ownership, which people may think sometimes it's a poker, but in reality, it's not. What exactly you are doing is you are owning a portion of a network when you are using it. Tell
Yeah.
me a Web2 company which does it at scale. They give you a reward, and then they will tie you with some other fancy company where you are going to spend additional 100 rupee or $100 or $10,000 or 100 rupee or 100 ruble or whatever you have. Then you get that 20% reward back, right? In this Web3 doesn't work like that. It gives you not just a read and write and ownership, and that ownership part is something which really attracted me here. And we just said like, okay, let me just get into all in. Either it's poker or not, doesn't matter, but it does gives us a lot of adrenaline push every day whenever I wake up.
I think that's super relevant to AI as well. Like with my last company and what we're seeing a lot in the crypto AI space is this tokenization, right? And sort of community ownership of either data pools for servicing AI or tokenized compute or tokenized models. And I think like what you were saying, right? Ethereum and Bitcoin really gave us the first way to have ownership over something that is also sort of open source and permissionless, which didn't exist before, right? It's like a totally new thing. And you can apply the same thing to AI, right? You know, sort of community sourced and provided data, distributed training, and then when you tokenize that, it sort of becomes both open source and ownable at the same time, which I think is really cool for the worlds and supporting open source networks and models, right?
True.
And also the hate towards Sodexo meal cards, like that has that has,
I don't
that
know
that
like
formed like
who got the meal cards, but yeah, it's
but that
why
formed
why
like
why
one
do
of
they why do they always want to like not to go gym and rather like go and eat something and then later they think
to
it's
I
crazy.
hate those reels. Like I hate those work with me for one day in the office and like Google, and it's that is the reason of the downfall of jobs. You motherfuckers.
Such King Kong, not enough hustle, right?
But I'm going to come to the tech question over here, and which is like, as you were mentioning, like permissionlessness, and is something which is very important for the segment. Like, so very first thing that comes to my mind and even the audience mind is that why infrastructure? Like, why is that thing which has been chosen by your company's project specifically, and why do you think that there is something eventual that is going to happen once we decentralize the infrastructure and then start with other players onto this. So what's your take on that? Like, is it cost, trust, or control?
Shashank, you want to kick this off? Do you want me to?
You can go. I'll go next.
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's a couple different reasons, right? And there's two ways you can look at it. What we were just speaking about is sort of the human and individual empowerment side of things, right? Like AI is going to fundamentally change the world, and there's a lot of concerns about how do we sort of balance, the potential negative effects on the workforce and on sort of standard of living, right, with the possible benefits, and sort of counter and subsidize that inequality that is, sort of looming and very possible. And so decentralizing the infrastructure, I think, just gives everyone a basis of an open source, permissionless sort of tech landscape to build from, right? And that just makes everyone's potential a lot greater. On the other side, and sort of think about the business end of things and why, businesses should also be interested in this alongside sort of the individual aspect is, data and compute, right? Those, resource efficiency, coordination, and incentivization. Those are going to be the main blockers, in my opinion, for AI and realizing the true potential and power of AI on the world. And crypto economic sort of protocols, primitives, etc., connect, a much greater resource landscape across the entire world than any one country necessarily could. At a much cheaper cost, right? So I think whether it's data, compute, or other sort of components to that resource landscape, that is what decentralized infrastructure can provide very rapidly and amass a much greater amount in a shorter time, right? As quickly as the US or whatever country can build these hyperscaling data centers, right? With the work Spheron is doing and other teams, perhaps we can amass a lot more compute and data far more in a shorter time span to service the needs of some models. So that would be my take, and sort of looking at both sides of things, right? The sort of business side, enterprise side, and then the individual side. And otherwise, the rate of innovation, in my opinion, will just be slower. So it sort of makes sense for all actors.
And Shashank, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so I tend to start from the outputs and then look at what we need to get to that output. Uh, Decentralization is an input, and you have to look why is it that decentralization is necessary? What can you not get if it were not decentralized? And so for us, it was about creating better models and making sure those models are owned by everyone. Right now, there's probably thousands, if not millions, of agents out there, but underlying they use like 4 or 5 models: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and so on. um, if that's the case, your agent doesn't really have an advantage because the underlying model is similar, and the economy rewards specialization. Economy rewards when you have an advantage and you can do a job better than the others. So we wanted users to be able to own their specialized AI agents, which are better than what is out there. And to create such a system where such kind of agents can be trained, it had to be decentralized to allow planet scale coordination. And that's where decentralization came into being, because it just wasn't possible to create it in a non-decentralized way. So now it's a system where anyone can join in, create their agents, compete against each other, and use that data to improve their agents. And without crypto rails, without decentralization, such a system wasn't possible. So for us, decentralization, permissionlessness, uh, came out of necessity, because it just wasn't possible.
I'll have follow-on question, and there it's
Oh,
a curveball. Okay. Um, so I think I'll jump on that one. I'll also put my POV.
sure.
But this question I heard when I was in NVIDIA GTC, when GTC was happening, and very a best company in data center space and all these places. I was talking to these folks. One guy asked me is that like they asked me like why you are doing it at Spheron, but I'm gonna throw the same question to you. But since you're a tech guy also, so I think it will be very easy. And the reason I'm asking this question, Shashank, is to let Web2 folks understand, whosoever from the Web2 world is listening to this, we want to let them understand why it is not possible in Web2. Okay. why this, when we talk about this planetary scale, when we talk about any of these jargons for somebody who don't understand it, if we want to make them understand
Mhm.
why we tell this, because I'll tell you a very classic example. And I was very I started, like, when we decided to build Spheron, we knew we are going to be thrown out with this question, so we kind of like build that, but we tried to explain in different ways. But it would be amazing to hear your POV on that. It's like why it's only possible in Web3, in a tech understanding.
Yeah, sure. So there are multiple stages of training AI models: pre-training, supervised fine-tuning, RLHF, and then the new one is reinforcement learning. If you look at the latest research, nearly all of the alpha has been taken from pre-training, supervised fine-tuning, and RLHF. If you do it at larger scale, if you do it with more amount of data, you won't get as much improvement anymore. There's just not enough to learn there anymore. We've kind of exhausted that. So the next stage where the improvements will come from is reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning happens in specialized environments where agents interact with the environment and learn by doing instead of being given label data and learning from there. And to create these environments and making sure the rewards are safe, the rewards are understandable by everyone, rewards are fair. You need a planet scale system to scale it up if you want to compete with state of the art AI models. And yeah, to coordinate that level of agentic behavior, you need crypto rails, because there has to be economic security built in there when your agents are interacting. And if you want to use Stripe or Visa, MasterCard, their APIs, they have a lot of regulations as to what you can do with them. They have a very high fee of transferring funds between them. There's a lot of things you can and cannot do there. But with crypto rails, it's all tokens. You can do whatever you want to do with smart contracts. You can come up with specialized environments which are just not possible in Web 2. So yeah, just to scale reinforcement learning, to create environments where agents can interact and learn, it's just not possible in Web 2.
Yeah, and just to I think you covered it very well, but I just told it in a very different way to that
Mhm.
person. Is that I told him one thing. You know what? I'm sitting here. You are here. Let's stream $0.1 from US to India, and let's see how much time it takes to you to do it, and how much cost you are going to pay for it. And let me
Mhm.
do the same thing here, and I'll show you how much cost and things which I'm going to pay for it. And we just opened up. He opened up the account, and the restriction was like you cannot send below $10, right? For me it was like I just opened up. I said, like, see, I have this wallet, I'm sending this to here to this guy, and it will just arrive, right? And that was the time. Then he suddenly realized, yes, this is the core part of Web3,
Mhm.
right? Because the moment you have that part removed, what can happen is then you are living in a borderless system. When we live in a borderless system, in a payment rails ecosystem, then you have, just imagine, a company building something on location A can create an arbitrage immediately with the company which is building something on location B. Today,
Mhm.
to create that arbitrage, it requires a lot of capital to do it.
Yep.
While if you go into the Web3, the same arbitrage can be achieved with a lower and more capital efficient way, without giving out additional fees to these banks and then all of those stuff, right? I think that's what my thesis, like, I have given, and you have also explained it quite well. I think that's the core fundamental of Web3, and that's the reason all the Web2 folks, you have to come today or tomorrow to build on Web3. And if you want to save high capital cost, OPEX cost, you just switch to Web3. It just works.
Yeah, so
Right.
your example also reminded me of the how good Web3 is at microtransactions. So when
Yeah.
you train agents, there are micro rewards for every action. And if you were to do it using Web2 Rails, your costs just keep on
Yeah,
getting
I
added.
saw in your also, like, you guys were like having your agents were trading zero point 0.1 USDC for bidding
Mhm.
for some things on your platform. So just imagine, if, like, you can't just do it on Web2 platforms.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not it's
definitely.
not sustainable.
Yep.
But then why SF folks hates us? Like, if it's that simple, like, why the
I
fuck
have
they're
a
Because
hating
when
on us?
I have a reason for that. So back in like 70s, 80s, or somewhere around the time when we weren't there, we weren't born. Uh, MIT, Boston, that area used to be like head of education and tech and whatever the tech was there back then. And when people in Valley were building these internet companies, they used to look down on them. That, yeah, what are these guys doing? This doesn't have any value. It doesn't mean anything. So that's culture. That happens whenever you are at a high pedestal. You tend to look down upon things that you do not understand right now, and that's also understandable because you're pretty good at what you're doing. So if there's something which is totally perpendicular to what you believe in, what you have believed so far, it just feels out of place.
But I really like how Shashank started like they were in 1980s, and then he gave a small explanation like these guys are just looking down because they're not on par. So I was like,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
was
it
really
has,
waiting for something. It was
yeah,
like,
yeah, it has happened
damn,
before. Boston guys did it
yeah.
with Valley guys, and Valley guys are doing it to everyone else.
So I still remember there was the event. I'll not take the name of the event because I just don't want to embarrass them on all of those stuff. But it was a fintech event in India. It was happening, and I was there because one of their investors was our investor as well. And there was a guy who was speaking about something, and he has been asked a question: is like, do you see crypto revolutionizing the entire fintech industry? His answer was like, it's a complete scam. It is not going to be happening, right?
ooh,
That time, that time, crypto market was 600, like Bitcoin was around 600 to 700 billion dollar. Okay.
mm, wow,
And it yeah and I was like, okay, so and I was we were there. I think it's not too long, like 2021 around, like it was the Bitcoin was around the same market cap. um and I was just hearing that out, and now when I go back to the, like, when I hear the same guy out, he's no more building anything in fintech. The reason, and now he also told me that, like, they're he invested in BTC after that. So don't hear what people just go and sell, because their job is to sell. Their job is to sell what they have. Their job is not to sell what they don't have or that they don't understand. It's a very simple concept. You talk to the people who understand the bottom line foundations, and in technology is always somebody will hate it, somebody will not, and that's the beauty of technology, right? So if you want to hate it, remain with the people like who hate it, and you will be happy in that cabal, and just enjoy that life. Don't even try to come into this. but but if you are somebody who wants to get educated, read the Bitcoin paper, right? Read the Ethereum paper. If you are now AI, just upload the paper there and understand what it basically says. You will come to know. So I think that's what it kind of brought me, and then from there on, I never responded to anyone. Like, you whatever you want to think, either in SF or wherever, you are going to be using AI today, like crypto today or tomorrow. So
I
just
think
the day is not that far.
people who respond with like, "Oh, it's a scam," I don't have faith in their potential to really appreciate and succeed in the world as much, purely because it's just with any technology, it's a tool. It's up to the user and the creator to determine how it is used, and it just feels closed-minded and sort of lack of innovation to just say, "Oh, it's a scam," and write it off. Right? It's happened to every technology throughout time. I forget what they're called, the Luddites, right? The Luddites are always that group that sort of, fear and hate and oppose technological change. And then boom, suddenly, same thing happened with the internet boom. So I'm glad we're all on the same page with that. But I think we're winning.
Actually, a
I think
positive
next time we should bring somebody who is entitled.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's have a
Actually,
Why are
stage
you making this tough?
where we can bring people who is completely entitled to crypto, and we bring them on, we counter them. I think I'm on it for these kind of things.
yeah, I
Like,
think that's a
where
necessary. Otherwise, it's just an echo chamber, and we have
yeah,
a lot of
it's just a negative.
explanations for the same people. I do think it's a good idea. I remember Jason Zhao from Story Protocol brought on someone who was a huge critique of sort of their approach, and after 2 hours, I think he convinced them. With imagine if you could do that on the Spherion podcast, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Wow.
we'd love to do it. I think Prakash, that should be in our
Case
timeline, and
closed.
we have issues.
Yeah,
We
case
can bring
closed.
everyone. Yeah.
That could be the series title.
But yeah, anyways,
But
it's a positive signal if a certain percentage hates you and strongly hates you. That means you're doing something like totally different, and they don't understand it. And yeah, it could be big because what people usually agree on, it's pretty obvious, and most of the time has already been done. And if not done, then there's usually a reason why that's not been done. But if something just feels out of place and not understandable, there's value in that.
So I'll add on top
but
one final thing on from my side before we hand over mic to Prakash, because we three are just jamming in together, and our host is like, okay, but and he's kind of like stuck into that area. But
He's
coming
not
back to on that part is that so there is a saying in investment, right, or any investments, is that if that thing become popular, that thing is no longer investable. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have to exit. Um,
Ah,
it's okay. So if they know it, then we will be already like 40s or 50s of ours, and by that time we will be retiring from this industry while they will be getting into the industry. So we will be taking this industry to the from nascent stage to mature stage, and then we will leaving it to somebody like to remain like keep it make it more mature. And this is the time who come in early, they understand the fundamental and they invest into. The people who hate and they try to hate, they keep on hating, but they will come in today or tomorrow. And by the time they will come in, we are good. We will be out. So,
we will
so
be out.
that's how I look at, not out in the sense like, yeah, at least like, bro, like what I'm gonna do like till my 50s. Like it's like no, I can't handle this
Sell
pressure
those
anymore.
BTC.
No, BTC, and I'm passing to my kid. So
got to
that's
hold
gonna be
forever. I think the Simpsons predicted it's going to
yeah,
infinity, and if money keeps being printed, they're not wrong. So
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I think I think for the SF folks, I think we already have an answer. But I said but three times. I want to just had to chime in onto that. But do you think like in today's landscape, like AI agents being created and verifiable compute, ZK, TEs, everything is coming up from different abstract points, which is trying to brew up, but there is no eventuality of products to it. Like you can see that there are things which are being made in this, and but when you eventually go down and see, okay, where are we standing with data DAOs right now? Are they being currently used? Where are we with ZK? Where are we with ZKML? Or where are we with all of these? So these are different abstract worlds where they are progressing, and people do not know. So what do you think would be the right way to bridge all of that? Like, because if because honestly, when in the AI world it happens, it's like either OpenAI or Anthropic, or like I'm speaking of closed source AI, like Google is doing something and they just go ahead and announce it and it becomes a big thing. But the whole decentralization has made it so abstract that anywhere something big and eventual happening, it is being summoned up in some silo, and we get to know it. Like even companies like Nows and are coming up right now, but it's a rarity, right? But in Web2 there are so many companies which are doing that. So how do you think we bridge that big gap of ours in our industry specifically?
happy to kick off this one. I mean, right. I think it's difficult because the biggest consumers of these announcements and updates within decentralized AI are Web3 people, right? And it's very insular, definitely an echo chamber, and no one outside of Web3 seems to care or want to like tap in, and it's hard to bridge the gap of like the audiences, right? So I think it's going to come from sort of larger scale coordination across the decentralized AI group. I know, there's a bunch of AIX crypto groups. Nexus actually recently announced that we are launching this Verifiable Intelligence Alliance, and our goal there is really to use our sort of Stanford Bay Area connections and network. We share an investor with Anthropic to build sort of this Web2 AI research sort of cohorts, and start off by collecting, these high-profile advisors and traditional AI research labs, and then sort of move them slowly to this decentralization understanding under the guise of like cryptography, right? We're very, science driven, cryptography sort of based here. So we're really trying to do that. We want to invite you guys. I think I mentioned this to you, Prakash. We want to invite the whole decentralized AI community in, but try and sort of not lead with crypto X AI first, and really lead with just traditional AI research, and then bridge that gap. But as part of that, we sort of want to pool resources to, perhaps have both regular content on these updates and like newsletters that are sort of neutral, cross industry, whatever, across economics, cryptography, AI. And then I also think when you start to have a consistent content engine, something that benefits a lot of the members, you can start, pooling capital to maybe get some sponsorship placements for big announcements like this decentralized training announcement. I think Plurality AI or something just put out, Pluralis.
Yeah.
Decentralized trading. That should go. Let's get that sponsored content in TLDR AI, all these different AI specific newsletters, so you can start sort of flashing up in regular AI individuals' thought stream. Because otherwise, I don't think it's super possible. Because again, no one in AI wants to know about crypto. They're not going to be coming to any crypto publications, and no regular AI publications are going to want to bring in crypto related AI. So I think we have to bind together, amass resources, and then like force it in front of people. Shashank, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say for last several years in crypto, we have been a bit allergic about creating products that people use. The good thing about
The problem right here.
Good point.
Yeah, the good part about Bitcoin was there was a paper which you could read, but there was also a chain where you could interact. You could do something which you couldn't do before, and it was just magical. So having a product versus having a paper, the experiences are totally different. And I think it's about time where we should like start from the users. Like build something for like 10 people, don't build it for a billion people. You can't do that. And then once you satisfy the needs of your 10 users by slowly iterating with them, then think of scaling. Now satisfy the needs of like 100 users, 1,000 users, million users, and so on. I mean, I have published papers back in college, back when I was at Goldman, and yeah, it's fine. Like it gives you that feeling of superiority, and oh, I'm smart. My papers are being read by scholars around the world. But unless people are using your product, it doesn't really mean anything. If 1,000 people in crypto know you, and they just think you're smart, but there's like less than 10 users on your app, it doesn't really mean anything. So I would say just push out your products. If you would need ZK for that and your users are asking for it, you will implement it, rather than building something and like highly bloated piece of tech with no users. So yeah, just needs a bit of paradigm change, and as we mature, I think it will come eventually.
I think Hyperbolic's been doing that very well. I chatted with them recently, and they've seen a lot of success with their inference and GPUs for Web 2 developers, and now they're sort of leaning into that. And I think you guys with Spherion are doing a very similar thing. So totally agree, Shashank. And we should not forget that, building a product that works for real people that need it is the core tenet of all startup work, right? So yeah, definitely back that. And I think again with crypto rails, you should be able to have, through these incentive mechanisms and like pooling of resources, ideally cheaper, more efficient products than Web2 can provide, unless it's a massive company with a, huge data center. So yeah, I think working towards that goal of cheaper, better, faster, better.
But haven't we gone through that same song and dance of like, we say it every time, right? Like we need good products, and everybody goes back to doing that. Okay,
I'll love to have one more point here, because it's in my head, and I want to kind of like ask these guys also. But I think you guys have caught it very well. That as a founders, I think it's a founders problem. Honestly, it's not the team problems. I think it's founder problem in Web3, where when you join Web3, you start treating as more of a poker, like slot machine, where you just keep on pressing those machines levers, and then you just keep on getting something. It keeps on getting you some dopamine. That dopamine takes you to some ego level, which you try to satisfy every now and then. I think it's the entire research which can be done on Web3 people and Web3 founders. I have, like, it's my fourth year. I think it's my fifth year officially in Web3. Um, and in my 5 year of journey, I have seen like many founders which who I don't even see now. Okay. The reason they retired is because they just came here without thinking that what are they going to be building and what is their moat is going to be, which is business fundamentals. And that's where we kind of like realize, okay, so fundamentally we have to fix that. You should have a product, you should have everything, and then you bring in incentive token economics and everything, then it makes sense. But following on that, right, and this is my own thought process. Following on that, I just wanted to like quickly chime into, and this is where people get confused a lot in Web3, and I have seen it many times. I've seen people selling the Web2 product in Web3, calling it as a Web3 product. Okay. um, and and why they do it? Because they don't get a lot of attention in Web2 world, because that Web2 world is already saturated. So they try to come to Web3 and they try to sell the same product here, but just put that it's a Web3 company. Okay. And I won't name anyone here, but here one thing which I want to ask from both of you: what in your own words and thoughts a Web3 company really means?
Um, for me, it's just like I've sort of talked with my team about how every company will be an AI company, right? Just by the nature of how AI can permeate in every part of your stack and workflow and products, right? I think it's similar, not quite the same, but similar for Web3, right? You now have this optionality to tap into a global user base, and incentivize for the actions you want to see amongst users if you need that to support your business. So I just see it as similar sort of vein of that. Oh, every company will be an AI company, but every company has the option to be a Web3 company. It's just whether you elect to use the benefits of that tool suite.
Yeah. So first, just to add a bit, it's not just the founder problem; it's also the market problem, because since crypto is pretty young, it's not been many years, and so in early stages, this kind of behavior where you can just create a product and it's code, so it's tech, and launch a token around it, and that behavior gets rewarded. Yeah, that happens in the early stages. There were a lot of dot-com companies in the early part of internet, which just grew like crazy because internet was new. So that kind of happens, but it kind of goes down over time, and I would say that would happen with crypto as well. As to what would you call a Web3 company? For me, it's the core aspect of your product, or the most important part of your product which adds value, has to be decentralized in some way. Doesn't have to be fully on chain, but some level of decentralization. And regarding the token part, the token has to be sufficiently distributed for it to be actually called a token. Otherwise, you're just holding it yourself. It's not really a token. There has to be some value accrual back to the token as well. So yeah, these two things.
Amazing. I have multiple questions around here.
Go for it.
But again, just coming back on the first one is, like when I said founders problem, I said my focus was mostly around is, as a founder, we have a choice to choose the path depending on what is the market you are in. So if you choose different path, you will follow different strategic, like parabola or whatever in startup, but we hockey stick growth or whatever growth we basically take a look into. On the other side, when we choose a very different path, which is like token pump and dump game, you just launch a token, you don't build product, you make money, you go out, right? And that's where my basically understanding goes into, like, and that's the reason I don't look at it as a market problem. I personally look at it as more of founders problem, because they don't understand the market properly. Okay, because it's ultimately us who basically define the market and understand the market. But coming back to again the same thing, right? I would it's a little counterintuitive again, Shashank and Alec, both of you, is that, and you can add your POVs there. For me, I think is that as a Web3 company, the one thing which you should do is to use on the foundational layer of your system. Doesn't matter if you are Web2, Web3, or whatever it is, it has to have a Web3 component. And what is a Web3 component on the foundational matter? It should be anyone should be freely able to join the network. Anyone should be freely able to use the network. Anyone should be given an option to either you want to they should not their system should not be just shut down, or you just should not be able to just pull off their funds out of there, right? This is the fundamental of Web3, and this is what I look at in any of the Web3 companies. If you don't have, you are not a Web3 company. Don't call yourself a Web3 company, and I'm very bold on saying this. Then you are a Web2 company, okay? Then you are nothing but you are a Stripe, where you have integrated USDC payment in your system, and you are a Web3 company. It's not a Web3 company. It's a Web2 company. They integrated Stripe. There's a difference. Now you guys tell me where this statement lies true. If this statement lies true, how then why don't we just come in and say that there is nothing called Web 2.1, 2.5 or something like that. There's something called Web 3. Okay. And I'm very entitled to honestly like any kind of Web 2.0. Like if you are foundationally Web 3, you are Web 3. Okay. But if you are foundationally Web 2.4, it's a solution design.
Right.
And I'm a solution. Okay. It's a solution design. In the earth, in the core, let's imagine for a moment, in the earth, if the gravity is outward, can earth remain earth? The answer is no. If the gravity is inward, which is the core of the earth, then that's the reason we are able to walk on the earth, right? So the core fundamental here is that everything has to be foundationally fixed. If we are foundationally flawed, then you call yourself Web 2.0 company, and I know that. Okay, we can sit on multiple tech calls. We can discuss that out. As an architecture, if you define your architecture foundationally as a Web 2.5 company, it will remain Web 2.5. Okay, but I don't know like what is the meaning of anyways Web 2.5. You guys can add on if you know it, but Web 3 is Web 3. How much do you guys agree on this point of mine?
I think, I mean, it's all about your framing and interpretation of the question, right? I agree with exactly what you're saying. And I think, you know, for me, I would reword that as what is the difference between a protocol and a company, right? That's sort of what I think you're getting at more versus Web 2 and what I was talking about is more, are you using the tools available, which don't necessarily exist in Web 2? But yeah, totally agree.
So I would say there's nothing called Web 2.5. Either you are Web 2 or you are Web 3.
That's a good one.
That's just. And regarding the definition for Web 3, I would say your definition aligns better with the L1 or L2 for a chain itself. But if you're a protocol who's building on top of a chain, a lot of those properties are already satisfied since every user has their own account, so no one else can take their money. It's there. The network is decentralized, so it's by definition decentralized. So yeah, if you're building a protocol, a lot of those conditions are subsumed. They are necessary, but within protocols they are subsumed.
Yeah. So essentially, there is no Web 2.0. That's what my basically question
validated
was.
the theorem. So people, if you are
validated the theory.
Yeah, if you are
Now
watching
I'm going
this
to cut this entire
and you're building Web 2.5 or Web 2 point something, just stop. Just make it 3 and then come to the level.
Commit.
It's actually a bad place to be because if you're Web 2.5, you're not Web 3, so people won't take you seriously, and you're not Web 2, so you're not focusing on your core business. So
You can't write
you
two
are-
boats.
yeah, it's not a good place to be. Just choose one and stick with it.
Yeah.
whenever I find a time, I'll jump to the Web 2 side.
That's a relationship
Whenever
advice
I
as well.
find something else, okay. Yeah.
Choose one and stick to it. So, but this has to. I have to somehow sum this up, and I think there is something which I'll give you as a which we always do, like because this 45 minutes didn't feel like 45 minutes. Honestly, like we are just gonna jump yeah over the time. So I want to say like. We gave you a link in the very beginning, so I want you to go ahead. Now we have said casino is real bad. Now let's go spin a wheel.
Let's spin the slot.
And let's show everybody.
Let's push our
TG
dopamine level
time.
on the screen.
So let's share the screen. Anybody can share it right now and spin and show that the game is not rigged. Like even with our esteemed guest, they get like
Uh, should
yeah,
we
yeah, but
spin?
you need to share
Spin
your
now?
screen first.
You have to share. You have to share the screen.
Okay.
Won't do that.
Let me
So
share
people
my
should
I feel like
also
an
screen.
old
get that
man here.
feeling.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
got it, Shashank.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
nice! This
we
is the
get,
Did
highest
we
it.
anybody
get.
has got
See,
on
this
stream.
is the highest so far. This is the highest
Yeah,
so far.
Really?
Yeah. This is the highest. High,
Bro,
like
give me 19,500 points. Just like that.
this is
but
this is
yeah,
the highest, man. Like you are in
one
pro
lucky
G
guest.
in casino. Uh,
All right. I'll
now we are gonna prove it with Alec.
yes.
Let's see.
Okay, can you see this?
Let's go, gods of probability.
Okay. Oh.
Ah,
Oh,
see, you gotta keep spinning.
We yeah, you just have to keep spinning.
Thank you
But
for a
anybody
great
who's
guys. That was awesome. Good good banter, good flow. Yeah, hope the audience enjoyed.
yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah, hope they learned
they
and
learned.
therapy went through.
So the therapy session was great, guys. This was it went well. And if people who are watching this, so Speron Stream 45 is the whitelisting code. You gotta get that, like if you want to get whitelisted, and it was super awesome. So the last segment is that this is like shill time. So this is gonna be like you gotta tell about your project, what you have been working on, something coming up. So like we are all ears for that, and Alec and Shashan, respectively, you can share about it.
Nice. Yeah, I'll try and keep this quick. We are Nexus. We spun out of Stanford's cryptography lab. We have great talent like Victor Miller working here, Jens Groth. So Victor Miller invented elliptic curve cryptography. And we have both been developing ZKVM, but also launching a layer one chain in Q3. So right now we are about to have our testnet, and we have this app, this web app, Nexus OS, where you can really easily start providing compute to the network, engage with our ecosystem, check out all the applications in our ecosystem. And that's probably the best way to get started at app.nexus.xyz. But yeah, have a big mainnet launch in Q3, and we're designing this chain for AI specifically. So rethinking previous business models that have worked in the internet so far for the AI future, and then finance. So really looking to have a strong Web3 foundation, but onboard a lot of new capital, a lot of new companies, and a lot of new users, because I feel like all of Web3 needs that. So that's us. Feel free to hit me up. I've commented a bunch on these posts, but yeah, message me with questions or if you want to collaborate. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Alec. Shashank, over to you.
yeah. So for those of you who haven't heard about Fraction AI, I don't know what you have been doing. So, but yeah, Fraction AI is a decentralized reinforcement learning platform for AI agents. You create your agents that compete against each other and become better over time. So, not static agents, agents that become better over time. So, create your agent now. There are already more than 100,000 there. We launched our mainnet a month back on Base. Um, yeah, there have been like a million sessions, exactly 1.1 million sessions so far. So, make sure you join and participate.
Prashant.
Crazy. Okay. So coming back to our side at Spheron, we are building the world's largest community power data center. Our belief is that AI should be owned and governed by everyone. And the foundational layer of AI is compute, apart from data. Data is also needed, but compute is an engine. Without that, nothing works. And that's where we want to jump in. We are aggregating the computing power across gaming rigs, enterprises, data mining centers, and all of those places, bringing them together in a very permissionless manner so that none of the one entity can define if you can access a specific GPU chipset or not. If it is available on Spheron, you will be able to access it. And this is my guarantee. Nobody can even stop it because it's all decentralized, permissionless. I even can't stop it. Its codes are deployed. It's all permissionless. Registries are deployed. Codes are audited. So nobody can do anything. You can go connect your machine, send it to anyone around the globe, and yeah, keep building and making the entire AI more community powered.
Amazing. And I'm building Sodexo meal
Yeah.
marketplace. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much, guys. This has been completely awesome. One of the few streams we laugh a lot and we really learn with each other. And thank you so much for being here. And guys, follow Fraction, Nexus, and Speron. Thank you so much for being here.